Will the Noles land the big fish from the transfer portal?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show is going to end with the discussion points about Leonard Hamilton and the lawsuit, what that means not only for Florida State, but the trend that I think is about to start, and it is going to be a massive, ugly black eye for college athletics. But for that, we're going to talk about 4 key players that the Noles are involved with on the transfer portal and use them as a microcosm of how not only can the Noles improve their roster, obviously, but why they are very important not only for this next season's team, but to get an idea and an assessment of what Florida State is willing to do with the portal to make this 2025 team good and then beyond, because it's going to take money and it's going to take some locker room changes that, quite frankly, the 2024 Noles did not have. So with that, I want to start off with a player that I've discussed before. Rahsul Faison is a really good running back at Utah State. I went back and watched his film recently. Really liked the way he could change directions, spin move, had the ability to bounce off a guy, stiff arm, and he also had some straight line speed. When you have a young man that has played at a program like Utah State, he's probably not played with a bunch of NFL linemen and tight ends blocking for him, but he was a downhill, no nonsense, going to come at you and smack you in the mouth running back with the ability to make defenders miss and run away from some guys. It would be a huge bonus to add somebody like that to the running back room, and he fits, to be quite frank, Gus Malzahn's offense. But there's another point about him. 24/7 Noles brought up that they interviewed him and it going through, and that he was talking about, hey, you know, they laid out the plan for me. And go read the article. It's really well done. I'm telling you, they did a good job. You could just tell by his quotes. They presented a plan. And the conversation wasn't just all about NIL. Am I going to be the guy? Because Florida State's running back room is not their concern. Like, that is not a room that has concerns of numbers, sheer speed, sheer size, experience. They've got a little bit of everything. I think Cam Davis is an NFL player long-term. I also think Singleton has a chance to be. He's got great speed. Remember the 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown earlier this season? That was Singleton. Those are just a couple of them. Mekhi Danzy is one of the fastest players in the country, track or football. He's another guy that's a young player at Florida State. But having another veteran presence, that would be fantastic for the Noles. And also I want to talk about this because he got into something that I like to kind of geek out on: scheme and fit. If there is one thing that Mike Norvell has shown throughout his tenure at FSU, he knows how to multiply the different ways, not add, multiply the different ways he can stress a defense with running backs. 1 back sets, 2 back sets, running back in the backfield, somebody in the slot. That's one of the reasons I was so excited this past season prior to his injury, Jalen Lucas getting injured. I knew he was going to be a menace. Unfortunately, he succumbed to injury, didn't get to play a lot this year. Hopefully, he'll be good to go this next season. I expect to see him on punt returns, in the slot, jet sweeps, etc. This guy, Faison, you add that to 2 back sets, him and Cam Davis in the backfield. Cam's good on the screen game, good at blocking, cross-buck action, fake to one guy, throw the screen to the other. Just holding the linebackers, making them accountable to what you do. Those types of plays are things that Norvell has done. Faison would be a tremendous addition to the Florida State football team in that regard. And again, veteran leader, proven power player. Those things are all great too. But just schematically, he's a guy you could put in the slot, run screens to, be a blocker. He's a strong guy. Anywhere he goes, he's going to attract attention, which then magnifies how much better other players around him could be. Make a screen to him, hand off to Singleton the other direction, sweep around the left end, big play. I'm not the biggest Norvell fan after this season for obvious reasons, but I do not discount his ability to scheme up things offensively. He's a good play caller. He just has to get better players and get more coaches around him that can figure it out. And I think he's done the second part already. The improvements with the coaching staff are massive. And I also think they're in a situation now where everybody's just really on the same page. If you can add guys like Faison to it, man, that would be huge for Florida State. Because quite frankly, there aren't enough guys like him that are proven on the roster that are willing to come in and at least consider being a part of what I consider a deep running back depth chart. This kid isn't just looking for personal glory. He wants to win. He wants to be a part of something. And he wants some of his own talents to be shown so he can get to the NFL. That's obvious. But you don't take the visit to Florida State when you have a ton of other chances like he does. Like Bama's after him. Utah's after him. North Carolina's after him. He has plenty of options. This kid believes in himself, and he wants to be in an offense that fits his talents all around. I think it'd be a really good fit. Maybe I'm wrong, but from the film that I saw, based on how Norvell has used running backs in the past and the offense at Florida State could operate with a really athletic quarterback and Thomas Castellanos, the RPO game could go bananas with him in the backfield again. And I think they would use a lot of two-back sets, a lot of 21 personnel, if you will, 2 running backs, 1 tight end. They can do all kinds of things with Gus's offense mixed in with what Norvell has done. It would be fascinating. The formational stuff, I'd be able to track all year and have a blast with that here on Locked On Seminoles. So I'm rooting for Florida State to get him as much, if not more than anybody, because I just want to see the schematics of it. And I think Florida State fans should be just as excited as I am. Next, speaking of jet sweeps, big plays on offense, speed in general, and just a guy that is not much fun to guard in a one-on-one situation, former Tennessee wide receiver Squirrel White is in the transfer portal, visiting Florida State. And this is a guy that, to be honest, Florida State really needs. Ja'Kai Douglas is gone. The Noles don't have a proven, at least, slot receiver / outside receiver that can just get after you in the screen game, short passes, and occasionally a deep ball as well. Squirrel White's a proven player. He did it for a couple of years at Tennessee. He played big boy football in Birmingham coming out of high school. He's used to big-time competition at both levels. Florida State adds him to what they already have. Now, remember, they got Deuce Robinson from Southern Cal. You got your big-bodied boundary receiver that is absolutely a nightmare at 6'6", 220, and he could run. You get another guy like him that's going to be covered because of Deuce on the field in single coverage a lot of the time, that's not going to be much fun. So here are a couple of the numbers for Squirrel. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but 5'10", 167 pounds. But instead of just screens and bombs, going through a Pro Football Focus, I found something really unique about this young man. Medium. This is a category I rarely bring up more than just a passing number. And he's not the biggest guy. You think of tight ends, a receiver like Deuce, playing in the middle of the field, those 10 to 12-yard routes, a deep end, something like that, maybe 50. Squirrel's pretty good at it. In 2023, 14.4 on those passes. 2024, 16.9. So the middle of the field and just passes like a deep comeback, he's been pretty good. If you can add that to the fact that he is going to run by guys, he's really fast. And in the screen game, he's annoying. Punt returns, possibly. He's another guy kind of like Jalen Lucas. You don't want to kick it to him on a low-line drive. There would be reason to be excited if he came to Tallahassee. Additionally, with him, just a few numbers. 2023 was better than 24 because Iamaioleva is not quite ready. I think that's kind of obvious based on how Tennessee's passing game was so up and down this past year. But in 23, he had 64 catches, 764 yards, 11.9 per reception, and 2 touchdowns. They had a really good receiving group. He was like the third receiver there. If Squirrel would have played at most other schools, he would have had 80 catches in 23, but they were loaded. Good for him for sticking it out and making a lot of plays and making that one of the more exciting offenses in the country. But at the same time, this past year, he went down, I think, more than anything else because Nico just isn't quite ready. Next year, if he'd have stayed with him, I think it'd be a better situation. When we come back, we're going to talk about 2 more guys in the portal and why they are so important for Florida State to land. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get into the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel has so many ways to pick up a W. You can bet on player props like receiving yards, touchdowns for a quarterback, rushing yards for a running back, even some defensive stats. Totally up to you. You can find your opportunities at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for a chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The portal is going to be very important all the way through spring for everybody. The Noles have guys on campus each day this week. A couple other guys that I want to talk about. Another one that we brought up earlier, and I want to bring him up in the same session that I did with Faison, is Marques Watson-Trent. I talked about him not that long ago. He's from Georgia Southern, but I went back and revisited looking at some of Florida State stuff, the new system. And here's why I still think that he is somebody that is probably undervalued by a lot of people. He's a linebacker. It's not the most glorious position. The new defense, inside linebackers in a 3-3-5 are not exactly the easiest to get and be, I don't want to say plug and play because it is a new defense, but it's not easy to pick up the scheme, etc. Having multiple guys, they got one kid coming over from Nebraska, that's certainly going to help. But if you get multiple veterans to help out with young guys like Nicholson, this isn't one example, that defense is going to assimilate to all the verbiage, all the checks, and just flat out alignment that are absolutely required to win. If you watched any of the playoff games, the teams that won big were the ones that didn't really screw up much on defense. Like you're going to probably have a bust in every game. Like Notre Dame gave up a bust on the one touchdown that Georgia had yesterday. But that was the only one. And Georgia, even with a few big plays, really struggled because Notre Dame was good at run gap fits. That's an example. Texas is really good at run gap fits. They gave problems for Clemson. Those are the kinds of things that this defense can do. Coach White and Pot Roast and all the guys that are trying to figure out that front, having another guy like Marques Watson-Trent would be huge. Now, as a reminder, he had over 90 tackles multiple times in his career. He's proven as it's going to get. I don't care what level you play at. If you have over 90 tackles in a college football season, you're pretty good. You understand what you're doing, you're durable, and you're willing to put your hat in the ring time and time again. He's going to have a leadership role just from the statistics and his ability to prove it over time. He did it the last 2 years. And I believe that Florida State not only would have a guy that just wants a chance to play in the big time, but a guy that, since he played at Georgia Southern, he probably is going to have a little more of a liking to Florida State, the culture. It's not going to be that much different, if anything at all, being at Tallahassee. That would be huge for the Noles. The other guy that I want to talk about is something that I've seen a lot of people on the Locked On Seminoles YouTube page comment on various message boards, on X, anything you can think of in terms of social media with Florida State. This is a topic that's come up a lot and should be. The Noles have lost several defensive linemen in one way, shape, or form. NFL draft, transfer portal, graduation, whatever. They need to assemble some more guys than what they have. They've done really well so far. Getting Jackson back, getting Williams from Nebraska, etc. McCray, all that's good. When Florida State is at its best as a college football program, they have more D linemen than the other team. That has been the history of Florida State in a simple sentence. You could ask anybody that was on Bowden's staff. You can ask any of the former players, even offensive guys. I've heard stories about defensive linemen and how much they dominate in practice, but how much it helped the O-line, the quarterbacks being sped up, how much it helped them prepare for Florida or Miami or Notre Dame or whatever bowl game they were going to, playing Southern Cal. It didn't matter. That helps you. The kid they got coming in, and this is a great story, Sam Houston State. It's in the state of Texas. It's not the highest level of football, but Chris Murray, 6'4", 255, he could probably play either of the down defensive end spots. 32 pressures this past year, 8 sacks, 22 stops, meaning by Pro Football Focus standards, their definition, a play at or near the line of scrimmage, where he stuffs a running back, quarterback, whatever, a screen play that he blows up. That's a lot for a defensive lineman. He also was very consistent in his grades with Pro Football Focus. Total grade, 79.7. Rush defense. Now think about it. Most pass rushers, they're not as interested in tackling the running back. 73.1. Tackling, 65.8. And then as expected, his pass rush grade's pretty high, 76.4. This is an all-around football player that's proven. I know it's not the highest level of competition, but he has the size. The statistics are really good. He's a veteran guy. I think Florida State would do very, very well to get him. And to be honest, just looking at his grades, I'm not very surprised that he has several different offers to come play. Matter of fact, for those of you that are on the YouTube channel, I'll share my screen so you can see it, and I'll go over a few more stats with you about him. But my goodness, if Florida State could just add him to what they've had already, it would be a really, really big boom to the program, because then you can start rotating guys that are very, very good. So here are a couple other things to note about him. The game that was bizarre, like this is just an insanely high game for a grade. Pro Football Focus has him with an overall grade of 88.2 against Florida International. I don't care who you're playing. That's insane. 84.4 against Hawaii. So, like, he can dominate a game. Now, it's not perfect. I doubt this is truly accurate, but New Mexico State, they ranked him tackling 23.9. I don't think anybody's going to get a 23.9, but whatever. Those are still some really interesting grades, and he had some pretty good consistent moments throughout the season, and the pressures in particular, and being a player on a team that I doubt has many guys like him. He's probably getting chipped and double teamed quite a bit. Those are some numbers to think about that are important. I see a lot of 70s and 80s in his grades, some 60s towards the end. I'm guessing he was a little more banged up, and teams were probably chipping him a lot. Liberty, Jacksonville State, he played against some pretty good teams. And good for him for getting a chance to go into the playoffs. That's probably a lot of fun. When we come back, we're going to talk about one more thing, and we're going to switch gears quite a bit. It's time to address the information that's come out about Leonard Hamilton, the lawsuit possibilities. I just kind of want to skim over that and how it can actually impact Florida State's football program in multiple ways as well. That's next on Locked On Seminoles. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me a number of times where I have had subscriptions that, quite frankly, I was paying for and I shouldn't have. Rocket Money could have helped me a lot a long time ago before it was around, and I wish it was. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors spending, and helps you lower bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. Again, I lose track of some of this stuff, and I know many other people do. Even if it's $5 or $10, that's money you're throwing out of your wallet, and you really don't need to. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. For the longest time, I've had a great deal of respect for Leonard Hamilton. He's one of the better coaches in college basketball, and he seems like, although I don't personally know him from everything I've heard, a really good guy. But having a lawsuit where 6 different players are suing based on $250,000 in supposed, that's what the crux of the lawsuit's about, $250,000 they were promised allegedly by Coach Hamilton himself, obviously is a black eye not only for him, but for FSU, college athletics, etc. Now, I have no new details, and I'm not going to try to give you the spin on how this is going to play out. Not a clue, not a lawyer. I don't know the amount of angst, if you will, from the players and the people around them there is towards Florida. I have no clue. What I do know is this. Florida State is probably going to want this to go away, and I have a feeling that Hamilton, unfortunately, will be done at the end of this year regardless. It's just time for change anyway. This is not a great way for it to end. And again, a personal note, I've always respected his work. This is unfortunate. But here's the other thing with it. There are a lot of rumors and stories that I have been told over the last year and a half, maybe even 2 years, about NIL and players, quote unquote, not finishing games or going into the injury mode, even though they weren't hurt, whatever, because of NIL indifferences. Sometimes it's because they thought they should be getting paid more. Sometimes it's because they were asking for more, whatever it was. There's a million different stories. This is a scenario, though, where if Florida State and or Leonard Hamilton, again, I don't know how the legal ramifications will play out in a courtroom. If they lose this and they lose big, you could see other people use this as a precedent in some way, shape, or form. Every case is different. To try to go after schools for back money on different things, on what they were allegedly told, etc. Almost like blackballing in a way, even if it's true, because the schools don't want to look bad, coaches as well, because once there's a reputation for a school and or a coach that they don't keep their word and pay the money, it's pretty difficult to recruit and attract talent from the portal or the high school ranks, the junior college ranks, whatever it may be. Player retention could become a difficult issue as well. So keeping guys on your roster. This is not a friendly situation. And I hate covering legal stuff, but this had to be addressed. I wish all the best to Leonard Hamilton in his retirement when he's done at the end of this season. And again, I'll be shocked if he's not done at the conclusion of the 25 season, but that's my guess. I'm sure most of you feel the same. But he's also, by proxy, a part of something that if it goes down ugly over the next, Lord only knows how long this will take, it's a legal matter, you could see players and or agencies, if you will, try to use this as a way to get back money and to even use leverage in negotiations with Florida State and other schools. This is a broad stroke. I'm sure there are other lawsuits where players are suing, but this is one that's close to home, obviously, for Florida State fans. So I want to use it through the lens of the Noles. I'm not happy about it, but if indeed Coach Hamilton in any way led somebody astray on what they would be compensated with financially, there's a chance for litigation. And that's about all I know. It's their word against his word kind of deal. That is really awkward. I'm hoping that what I'm guessing at with other people using it doesn't come to fruition, but let's be honest. How often do people not try to, quote unquote, get as much as they can when there's a legal ramification out there that they can use as precedent? That's exactly what this would be in the court of law. This is what happened here. They got X amount of dollars as, mediation, or they sued and they won in court. Like a school like Florida State or pick any other, they don't want that in the courtroom over and over again. Not only the legal fees a nuisance, it is the political backfire. Again, recruiting, the coaches, the institution, it is a big red flag. So when you watch or hear or read about whatever it is, with anything with this lawsuit or anything else moving forward, and I don't care how it goes, just remember that there are different ways for people that are outside of this completely that eventually could use this against Florida State and other schools too. So I hope it's resolved in a good manner and everybody gets taken care of however it goes and we can move forward. And again, I hope Leonard Hamilton goes into retirement in a good way because he's been a very, very good guy from everything that I've heard for years. And obviously he held Florida State at a very high level of college basketball for quite a while too. So with that, thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscription, that notification bell, and share this Locked On Seminoles podcast to as many people as you can. I truly appreciate it. You can find me on X at FBScout_Florida. I will see you all again next week. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.